Alright, hello everyone, this is Chara here with my former teammate Liotos, and we're here to rank every single main weapon in the game, but without any subs and specials. So, not just are we not counting kits, but it's like subs and specials do not exist. It's still 4v4, and gear like MPU is still counted. But it's as if the weapon doesn't have a sub and can't use its special. That's what we're ranking things based off of, so... yeah, if you're ready, Leo, I think we can get right into it.
Alright, yeah, I'm ready.
Alright. Well, this is a difficult tier list to do, so I think we can start with a really easy one. I don't think you're going to disagree with me, but I think Aerospray at the very bottom, immediately.
yeah, I think I can agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, Junior and Aerospray so closely compete with each other main weapon-wise, and Junior still has that larger ink tank. That still counts, that's part of the main weapon. And it's got the one-shot less kill time. The paint's basically the same. Like, poor Aerospray, dude, without kits... like, if kits didn't exist, it just would not be played. I really want this weapon to get something. It's sad.
I mean, obviously, it's like the only 5-shot in this game. It actually is. It barely has any kill potential without any like damaging sub, and it really is only used to paint for special. And if we're not counting special in this, then it really has no other job besides paint.
Yeah, and that's it. All it does is paint. And there's a lot of things in this game that paint. So
you don't even need that much paint as long as your weapon has can consistently cover the ground. I think it'll be a good weapon, but Aerospray does that a little too much, I think.
Undercover. I think
Undercover.
The only other easy one I think we can get, actually not the only other either, like the second to last easy one we can get out of the way. Undercover does have some matchups that are okay, like in main weapon wise. Like it does have stuff like shooters that it likes fighting, but still overall, if we're looking at matchup wise, like between all the main weapons, yeah, it's not good. And it doesn't really paint that well either. Installing isn't as valuable in this case, so it's like, yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, for the weapon, it just, I mean, we've seen it, like, fail to even work sometimes. The shield is way too small to even cover the entire body of a character. Like, you'll just get shot through it sometimes. And the shield itself is really flimsy and weak. It'll break instantly. And with having very little, like, kill power, like, one of the slowest kill times in the game, it's really not going to do much without any sub or special, so.
Yeah.
It has good paint. It can paint the ground fairly well and get special really well, but if we're not counting that, it really just can't really fight. It can't really fight.
I can only think of one more weapon I would put in F tier, and it's gonna make people hate me. Dapple. I know people say it's kits and kits matter, but this thing, it has good strengths. Like, technically all of these two. Undercover does have some stalling capability. Aerospray still does have some paint. And Dapple has solid DPS, but it's outclassed by Sploosh. Its mobility is cool with the rolls, but it's outclassed by Sploosh with short-range shooter mobility, because that's stupid, and Sploosh is better than every other weapon in that regard. It still gets screwed by MPU weapons, which still exist here, and you don't even have specials to deal with MPU, so arguably that gets worse. So it's like, how do I see Dapple closing the gap without any subs or specials? Like, you just... if you're gonna paint a weapon in, there's so many better options to choose. So I just don't see the point.
Yeah, in the short couple times that I've played the weapon, I can never close the gap. Even with the kits it has, I can just never get in that quickly. And like, it's supposed to be quick and you're supposed to be able to get in killed quickly, but if you can't close that gap, you really have like no ability to get anything out of that weapon. So I don't know.
Yeah, its paint is horrible too. So it's just,
yeah.
Like even Sploosh paints for itself better. So it's like...
yeah. Sometimes Devils can't even like paint your feet. Like I swear, I'm trying to paint my way out of a terrible situation, and it just doesn't paint my feet. So it's just like I'd rather play any other shooter or any other Julie for that fact.
Okay, now making this tier list gets hard because
yeah, it's really.
Now this is where it gets really hard. What about Reg Roller? Roller without curling now. I feel like rollers are still okay because you can still have a comp that paints for them. But I think Reg Roller doesn't really do anything special, so I think a lot of main weapons could be more outclassed right now. And if I'm gonna paint a roller in, why wouldn't I want a Carbon? What's the point of having Reg Roller over Carbon? Even without the Burst Bomb, Carbon Vertical is still kind of ridiculous.
You get slightly more range, I guess, but at the same time, the weapon, even with MPU getting extra increased damage, it still cannot kill consistently at max range. And it's just, I think that happens for a lot of rollers, but I think regular roller suffers the most from that. I don't know.
And I mean, Carbon also, like, Carbon's regular roll is still pretty fast, so it's still kind of an escape option. Like, at least way better than anything Roller has, because you pick up speed so fast. So I feel like Carbon is a bit more sufficient. So I would say, yeah, alright, I guess Roller, sure.
I guess Roller goes in the C tier, yeah. What about Luna? Luna's another one of those weapons that are pretty, like, short range and, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It can never close the gap, at least when I play. I'm not the best at short range weapons, but I mean, it suffers a lot.
I would say Octobrush and Tri are a lot more self-sufficient. Both of them can paint, and both of them, like, Tri is light class, I guess Luna is too, but Tri is faster by default, and Octobrush is rolling, so I guess, yeah, if we're going without class, and Luna kinda doesn't really have anything special over Tri or Octobrush, then yeah, I'd say, like, C tier, probably good to put it.
It gets outranged by, like, almost everything in this game, and I mean,
yeah, not having a bomb to poke just sucks.
Yeah, it suffers on
It
both
sucks so hard not having a bomb to poke with, so yeah, C tier fits. What about Clash? Clash might be a little bit better.
It's a little bit better.
But is it better enough to be another tier?
I don't know. Because the weapon, it can't paint at all. That weapon,
it's like even worse than other blasters. Like, it doesn't even paint for itself in, like, one shot. You have to shoot twice at times. It's really awkward.
Like, you'd think for a weapon that shoots incredibly fast, it would paint really well, but it doesn't. It just can't. And its kill power is it's just bad. It's supposed to be bad because it's a 4-shot or a 2-shot with 2 directions. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I think it's kind of better, like, in the main game, because it can actually deal with armor and specials a bit better with the mobility. But with just main weapons, it's like the kill time's just not really gonna happen. It doesn't have burst bomb to combo off of, so you have to really still kind of build comp around it, but still really difficult. It at least has a bit more range. That's what it makes me think it's at least slightly better than Luna, because at least it has a bit more weapon range. Like, it can kind of poke and combo with things. It's just not the best option to do so.
Yeah. It's just basically putting your opponent on a timer at that point, because they have to kill you before you kill them, and, like, I think a lot of weapons can do that, especially when they can back up and outrange or just straight up just kill them before they can kill you. So it's like, Flash is not going to get much mileage out of the power, so... Even if you land the 2 directs, which probably won't happen most of the time, so.
Yeah, I can't.
People are saying GoodSuper.
I think GoodSuper is next.
Yeah.
I think GoodSuper is still tier up. So, GoodSuper is still outclassed, which is why I'd be in B tier, because it's just a worse Swiffer. Like,
but it's a charger.
It's still a charger, though. So, main weapon-wise, like, its paint is still pretty good with tap shots. It still has partials, which are okay, even if it's not as good as, like, charging in the air. The big problem with GoodSuper is just mobility. Like, Swiffer can at least, like, jump charge shot and be, like, moving a little bit. Yeah. But GoodSuper, like, has to charge, swim up. It's just, yeah. Like, when you're short range, you kind of need, or I guess mid-range, but it's still charger. You kind of need a bit more mobility.
I agree, especially, like, 8 patches, like, they've been giving it, like, things that give it more mobility. Like, it's instant pop, it's hold charge, which is really nice.
Like, compared to full charge speed in the air, just not. Like, giving a weapon like this the ability to move and charge at the same time, like... That's so goddamn important, so I can't see it. And I mean, Swiffer with MPU still paints pretty well too, so even the paint isn't that special.
GoodSuper, even though it has literally one of the best, like, tap shots for painting, because it literally paints, like, its regular, like, full charge shot with tap shots, it's still not, like, you're not... It's just way too slow. It's way too clunky to be an aggressive charger, and it's just... That's why it's, like, so heavily outclassed.
I think... Junior now is fair. The larger intake is still useful. It still has very good paint. And it's still pretty fast. But I wouldn't be putting it in Sploosh tier. Like, I think Sploosh is still a good bit better. I do think Junior is a pretty... Actually, you know what? I'm going to put Junior down here. I don't know why we didn't put it down here earlier, but... Honestly, the larger intake doesn't mean that much for it. I mean,
really,
it's not throwing bombs.
It's really only useful for the fact that I can throw double bomb, and it takes, like, less gear to actually, like, be able to throw double bomb. I mean, it can close the gap, but it can barely close the gap. I mean, it struggles like the rest of the other weapons. Like, Aerospray can't really do that. I mean, Luna can't really do that. Junior really just needs bombs to poke, and without those bombs, it really has nothing else going for it besides that giant ink tank. And, I mean, you're never going to really run out of ink anyway. It has so little ink.
Yeah, you can shoot for, like, over 30 seconds, even without the extra ink tank, so, I mean...
Yeah, literally. I don't know. I still have to go for it, and it's really not that important, so... Yeah, I got a water bottle, sorry.
Okay, now that we said that, though, I think Sploosh is better than it. Because Sploosh is, A, the fastest weapon in the game, like, mobility-wise. It also has the highest DPS. So, for it's being played on Rainmaker, that matters. But outside of Rainmaker and Umbrella Shields, DPS isn't really that special, because there's no specials to counter. It's just for Rainmaker, and it's just for one class of main weapons. So... I think Sploosh is still a good bit better because it's very fast and it kills quickly. So, I mean, even though you have to get a bit closer to the Junior, like, it's definitely more made for fighting than for painting, so I think it goes a bit higher.
I mean, even if it's just made for fighting, it still can paint well, I think. It can paint smaller areas, like closed areas, like really well. I think that's definitely it can be important. It's just like, again, it's not gonna be able to close the gap without anything. So it's really just gonna struggle against most other weapons in this tier. So Dynamo.
Yeah, I think Dynamo's fair. And I think we could do Flings in 2, honestly. I think both of these weapons are okay. They're fairly solid, but I wouldn't really put them any higher. Dynamo's vertical flick kill power isn't really existent, but I mean, it still has some pressure, I guess, for poking. Like, if you're against a non-range weapon team, maybe because there's no bombs thrown at you, but it's still 3-hit kill. That's like 61 frames to do. And then Fling's a vertical is literally just a painter. So it's like, Flings' main thing is it's a painter and special spammer, but now, no. So, that's not really a thing. It's horizontal flick is not reliable. Both of these are still alright main weapons, honestly. And both of them can still paint, which is still somewhat valuable, just way less valuable. So I'd put them both kind of the same spot.
Yeah, I think they're mostly carried by their kits. And, like, they have really good kits. Especially, like, Dynamo has some really solid kits there. And Flingza has, you know, its foil kit, which is really good. But without those, the rollers just really suffer, honestly. Especially Dynamo. Like, I swear it doesn't kill half the time, even with MPU. That thing, it's so inconsistent. And so is Flingza. Flingza has a worse, like, horizontal flick than a regular roller, I'm pretty sure. But it has the vertical flick going for it with good paint, so it at least can paint at mid-range. Which is, it's nice to have, but it's not going to get you that much out of it, so.
Yeah, I agree.
Octobrush.
I think Octobrush is kind of outclassed by Tri-Main weapon-wise. I think if this was Splatoon Octobrush and it had its 2-shot potential, this could be way higher up on the list. But, no. Without it, I mean, its kill time's still pretty slow, and it still struggles against things at longer range. It still is, like, a bit better, but I think it's kind of like Splish. Like, it's good in specific situations and matchups, but against, like, the whole roster, nah. Oh, it's still okay, but it's not great, yeah.
Yeah, it's every time I hear you play, you only ever really put in like
Rainmaker,
maps where you can abuse it.
You can use it
and
in
it's
Rainmaker
like
and a few Clan Blitz maps if you're against like Tent or Bubble Team. But even then, the Tent and Bubble is because you have K-Brush kit, and we don't have kits, so
yeah. And it only really kills well in like close range, especially when it has that stronger damage like range and
even
in front of
then,
space.
like, it still kills slower than pretty much everything in its range. Try that outranges it, kills faster. So
it's literally the faster weapon, and like, you know, it paints better. So it's like Try is just completely outclassed with this weapon. Although Octobrush does have some places where it can excel, but those are very, very niche and very like you're not going to be using it that often.
Yeah. On the topic of V-Dually, though, I agree, yeah. I mean, MPU is going to shut it down really hard. It's slower than short-range shooters. Its pain is, I think, a little bit worse than short-range shooters. No special kit, so yeah, I mean, I think B tier's fine for it, yeah. I mean, the rolls are cool. The rolls, even with them using less ink now, they're still not really that amazing on their own. Like, I think the other 3 dualies are actually pretty good because of their rolls, but I think normal dualies are just okay. They're not bad. If other attributes of the main weapon was better, or if MPU didn't exist, I think it'd be higher, but as of right now, I don't think so. I think if you know how its dodge rolls work, like, shooters will just outmaneuver and shoot you, and you're gonna die, and then MPU weapons will screw you over, so.
Yeah, I feel like with Dapple and V-Dually, they're both way too, like, they have way too much end lag. Especially in this meta when you're literally gonna get killed so quickly. Like, you need to be able to move, and having those dually, like, dodge roll movement options is really nice, but then you have to sit where you last dodge rolled, and, like, that takes way too long, and you can get easily shut down there. Like, if it needs to close the gap, it can, but it can get shut down way too easily for that.
Alright, A tier, we can start with Range Blaster. Range Blaster is barely in this tier. Barely. Like, I've been thinking as we ranked B tier if I should put range there. However, with no ink armor or specials, the one shot at the range that it has is pretty damn threatening still. So I still think it's like, yeah, you can still kind of play around it. That being said, 2 indirect is still unreliable. The weapon still can't move.
No,
and there's still a lot of difficult matchups here. I think it does actually bully some weapons, like stuff like VDS, or like Squelchers in general, without other specials, it's actually a good matchup against. Range Blaster actually has some okay matchups. But man, without jumping, it's just too slow. If it could jump, it could be so much higher in a main weapons environment. But without jumping, it's just, Nah, it's not gonna work out.
Literally having barely any movement options. If you jump, you are putting yourself at a risk because you want that direct, but if you jump, you're making yourself like a lottery. You are like a casino. You have to pray that you hit that direct because your weapon is, even with MPU, making it easier to like...
MPU does nothing with it, basically. It's like not even noticeable, so yeah.
It's tough. And, I mean, yeah, the only thing going for it is that threatening one-shot direct with having to worry about, like, having not to worry about, like, ink armor or anything. Like, it's nice, but, like, it is so laggy that it's just, it's A slightly, so.
Carbon. I think it's pretty safe to put here. Carbon's still a pretty good main weapon. Still has pretty solid mobility. Vertical flick is still fast. But man, taking away Burst Bomb still takes away a lot. Like, without Burst Bomb, this thing does lose a lot of its threatening capability. And you have to get very close to it. So even though I think it's a lot better, it's like range. You could play around the quick one-shot, like range could play around the long-distance one-shot, but it still has a lot of problems that it needs, like, in this case it needs a kit, and range needed not RNG to be functional. So it's like, against the right main weapons, I still don't see it doing much, so yeah, A tier.
It's fast. It has that going for it. Kill power is pretty fast. I mean, it kills pretty quickly if you can get in their face, but that's if you can get in their face.
Yeah,
not having that burst bomb just sucks. So.
You still have to have other people paint for you, so you're still a bit comp dependent. So yeah, it still has problems. Do you think Rush is here or one higher? I think we can talk about it now. Because
I think
being able to distract people is still pretty damn valuable, and it still has solid matchups. I guess it's just like in a main weapons only environment. Do you think the ability to make people look at you is still that valuable? I kind of want to say no, because I think the better main weapons when we get there are just gonna still be really good.
Like, I think this in an environment where there's no specials, it still really struggles to even close. Like, it's good at distracting. It's fast. It's good at that. But then, like, if you want to use it for anything else, it's gonna falter. It can kill, kind of, but that's if you can even get in. I mean, Brush, it doesn't really have to rely on its kit. I think it's already right now, it doesn't use its kit as much. I mean, Baller's nice to have, especially when it's distracting, but like, it doesn't lose much.
Yeah, I suppose without its kits, it can't stall as hard either, so yeah, that's kind of true. Okay. I think we can go with Heavy pretty quickly at this point. Yeah, I mean, it's like one of the most... I've said before that I think Splattershot is like the perfect average short-range weapon. I think Heavy wants to be that, but it isn't. It's just arguably the worst long-range weapon. I just don't see any reason why you'd pick it over anything else. Like, again, Heavy, outside of kits.
Heavy got nothing. It really just got put in this game, and then it watched as other weapons got added that were given just, like, things that it wanted. Like, having the ability to recharge mid-shot is, like, really nice. Having the ability to hold charge as a flatling is really nice, but it didn't get any of that.
Yeah,
it's
got nothing.
Pretty mediocre.
And Squiffer and Jet Squelcher both got added range with MPU, and Heavy did not get any extra range. So now Heavy, which already kind of struggled, has to deal with the two similar weapons to its range, now just have more range, and it doesn't. So
they literally just get outclassed.
Like, it now basically matches Squiffer and gets outranged by Jet, where it used to have, like, around the same range as Jet and comfortably outrange Squiffer. So, yeah. I don't see it anymore.
Heavy's sad. It really got nothing going for it anymore. It used to have something at least, and like at least the kits, like Heavy Deco's, Heavy Remix's kit is nice because Booyah's really nice, but like we're not talking about kits here.
Yeah.
And that's just what sucks. No.
I think 96 is fine here. Without Wall, the RNG on 96, like, it feels like a lottery in a main weapons only environment. Like, without a Wall though, I mean, yeah, like you could get lucky and two-shot people, which is still really good. But if you don't, you just kind of die. Like, its pain is okay, its mobility is not great, but I feel like 96 is a weapon that just, it needs a sub to help it. Like, it needs something to help keep it alive when RNG is horrible. So it's like, even Sprinkler Tiny Shield helps a little bit. Without any of that, it's just way too unreliable. So like, yeah, if you get good RNG, maybe, but I wouldn't say it's any higher than that.
I think MPU really helps it too. Like, having the ability to do so much damage in just one shot.
Now you're not comboing with bombs, you're just comboing with main weapons, and that reduces the potential so much. Like, you can't just splat bomb and then one-shot someone because there's no bomb. Like, the most you're comboing with is, I guess, Rapid Explo? That's about it, so there's not a lot of things to combo off of. And speaking of not a lot of things to combo off of, that also hurts Blob, in my opinion.
Blob it's good. As a weapon, I think it does its job pretty well. It can AFK well. It can paint the map really well. But then, like, what does it get with that paint? with its kits, like it has Storm and Bomb Rush, two really. I think Bomb Rush is definitely better, but like they're really consistent specials that get the job done, and you can use them so much. But without those specials, Blob really just doesn't do much besides add a lot of pressure onto the enemy team. If you can play around Blob, it's really not gonna be much of a threat because you won't be getting laid in by specials. So
yeah, it still is good threading. It's still combo well, but there's just a lot of stuff to combo off of, and it's not getting specials.
What do you think about Machine?
I have the same thoughts with Rapid, so I guess we could talk about both right now, where it's like, it really benefits from having a combo sub. Yeah. Not having a combo sub hurts it a ton. I would put, like, spoiler alert, Rapids are going in S, and I guess we could put them here. They're not that different, honestly, main weapon-wise. It's like, without a combo sub, they really struggle a lot. They still do really good poking power, and without specials to help get you through, they honestly still have good walling out power. So the thing about Machine is, I don't think Machine has the same walling out capability, but I think it's a little bit more reliable at fighting. That being said, like Rapids, not having a combo sub still really hurts it. So with that being taken into consideration, would you put it in A or S?
It has good kill time if you get the direct, and like it has, you know, the ability to shoot through walls, basically, I feel. It's consistent when played right. It's just like, I don't know, not having Fizzy especially, it makes it just such like a liability.
Also, well, I guess let's knock out the last blaster out of the way, Normal Blaster. The main thing about Normal Blaster, and the reason it's so much higher than the other one-shot blasters, is because Normal Blaster has way less end lag. It got that 8-frame cutoff in around 2.0s. And Jump RNG still hurts it, but at least you're still pretty fast. Like, that's at least the one thing it has. Like, shooting and then strafing around still feels way better than any other blaster in the game. That still makes it a lot better at fighting things, especially with how fast shooters are. So I think Reg Blast is still pretty solid. Not having to deal with armor and stuff helps a lot. It still hurts from not having a combo sub, but not as much as these three. So, yeah, I'd put that in S.
I think not having to worry about armor is definitely nice, especially for it. Because when we're not counting specials here, it really can just kill really quickly. Having that consistent, like, you're shooting pretty fast, you can direct people really quickly. Even if there's a 2-shot indirect, like, that's still good, especially for its range. Like, it's fast and it kills fast, so like it has a good amount going for it. I mean, not having a combo sub is, I guess it doesn't really need a combo sub. It's just good. It's just overall just a pretty good weapon, honestly.
Alright, well, chat's asking about, oh my god, Gluga, really? Gluga, really? Yeah, I mean, dude, Glugas have a 2-shot at, like, a Splattershot Pro range. That's pretty ridiculous. That's
a pretty good weapon, honestly.
It still gets hit by mobility, but I mean, not having to worry about its lack of pain as much because there's no specials, being able to actually be focused more on fighting things. Like, I think Gluga is a pretty good fighter. I think the main thing that can harm it is, of course, not having too much mobility with its rolls, which I think is okay still, if you pick your fights. The second thing would be MPU. So I think this is another very close between A and S, but honestly, I would put it in S.
I honestly want to put it in A.
In A?
I don't know. Okay. I think it's good. I just think you're ranking it a little too high there, because it really doesn't get much of that wall, honestly. Like, it can get shut down pretty quickly. I mean, when we're going to be putting other weapons like Squeezer in higher tiers, I think it definitely can get shut down. On its own, it's really good. It's just, compared to other weapons, it's not as good. But I see where you're coming from. I definitely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. I think we should rank Jet.
Jet
without special spamming, I think, is S tier. Purely because it is still really good suppressing fire.
It's so good.
With the MPU range, it's still really good suppressing fire, so you can still wall people out and help your team pick fights. I think that's it. I don't think it's a great fighter, but it still just puts a lot of distance pressure. Actually, maybe even lower. I don't know, man. Like, would I say it's as bad as Heavy, though? Probably not. I think it's better than Heavy. So yeah, I'd put it S.
Jet is so good. I think it is one of the most underrated main weapons. It's usually only seen for, like, special spam, but it just...
I think part of it is just the other... Like, if there were other long-range options that were better, Jet would have such a hard time fighting everything. Like, fighting Ballpoint, fighting Hydra, fighting Charger. It doesn't win any of those.
No,
but right now, it just doesn't have to fight him. So it just doesn't matter.
It beats out any other, like, shooter weapon. As long as it can keep its distance, it will just kill Shred. You take into account the fact that it has, like, pretty quick kill time for, like, the range it has. Like, I think especially if you have good accuracy and, like, good aim, that weapon can be really scary to deal with. Like,
even without the subs, I think it's just suppressing fire is very strong. I think Explo is still pretty solid as a main weapon. It's so close to being higher up, because it's still kind of suppressing fire like Jet, but it can also hit over ledges and do good chip damage, but it's also so slow. Like, if your team's forced into an up-close fight, like, Explo is so easy to pick off and then just play 4v3. Like, I could say it's arguable to be a tier higher, but I honestly kind of want to put it here.
I can agree with that.
Because, remember, it's another matchup thing, where it's like, you have to remember, there's going to be a bunch of Chargers and Hydra now, because there's no armor and missile. And that means Explo now has to deal with bad matchups. So even if you're poking at long range, that mobility is now going to really hurt you, where Jet can still kind of peek in and out of cover a lot better. Because other weapons are better, I think Explo gets worse.
I can agree with that. Explo is really, its only detriment to it is the fact that it's so slow. When you get directed by that thing, it just does so much damage to you. Like, and you won't be paying much. I mean, I guess you will be paying a lot with it because it's long range. You can supply a lot of pressure for your frontline teammates to get quick picks, and you're always able to do that too. Explo is just a really solid weapon. Even with its detriment, it's slow, but it's going to be playing backwards. Like,
I just think it's going to struggle with comms. And speaking of struggle with Chargers being good, Hydra. I think Hydra is really cool. I think if it fights comps that doesn't have a Charger, it would be really good in a main weapon only environment. But yeah, the second someone picks a Charger, you just kind of can't do anything. So it's a really hard one to rank, honestly. Because it's so dependent on what the other team is running. But I think it honestly should be here because I think it's easy enough to counter. It's
good. It's a good main weapon. It's just, you know, Chargers are always just gonna be like oppressive. Yeah. And when your main weakness, dude, Hydra, it has such a good kit. Like its custom kit so good.
Yeah. Well, if it wasn't
my god,
it'd be good, but
if it you know, it could actually get armors, but like besides that, it's like it doesn't really have much going for it. I mean, it does have the long range. It's just like once you fight a Charger, like what are you gonna do? You're slow, you're clunky, you have to charge for so long, and then you only have such a short amount of fire. And then there's such a big gap between when you can actually fire and when you can't fire. It's like kind of just like good and then you're bad at the same time. It's weird.
I have 2 more weapons, maybe 3, that I think will belong in this tier. One shooter I want to get out of the way is Splattershot Pro, because the only reason you'd really use Splattershot Pro is the MPU niche. However, if we're really looking at this list, I see better MPU options. I see H3, I see CDS, and I see Bamboo. Why would I want a Pro over those ones? So if those options didn't exist, MPU Pro could be higher. But because they do exist, nah. It just kind of has a problem. Speaking of things that have a similar problem, Tetris, man, I'm really close to putting this one higher, but MPU, it's just gonna shut it down, dude. Even if you're a comp where it's like, yeah, Tetra, it can finally thrive, because nah, main weapons are MPU, dude. If MPU didn't exist, I think Tetra would actually be, like, top 10, maybe even top 5. But unfortunately, MPU is such a hard counter to the thing, and there's gonna be Chargers. So yeah, I don't know, man.
In this kind of thing where you don't have to worry about specials, I think Tetra is really solid. Like, it has to, you know, rely on either quick respawn or MPU. And, you know, like, its whole goal is, like, to run in, die, and get a trade, or get 2, maybe. You have to either run QR so that you can do that consistently, or you have to run MPU so you can actually get the kills. And, like, you're balancing between either two. And without MPU, yeah, you're right, like, it's pretty good, because, you know, it doesn't have to worry about the fact that, you know, it can get 2-shot by a K-Pro, or, like, Bamboo can literally 1-shot it because you rolled and you stepped in the enemy ink for, like, half a fraction of a second. Like, it's just so much to think about. But Tetris, I think, is a solid weapon, because you know, you never even use its kit really in the main game too.
Yeah.
And like,
the kit doesn't really matter for it not having its kits. Oh wow, that sucks. Anyway.
Wow, no way.
And that'll be all for part 1. Part 2 will be coming later, featuring the remaining weapons. I hope you all enjoy.